This film was originally intended to bring members up to date with developments on the Battens Farm Roman site. But recently, I'm very sad to say, we've lost one of the moving forces behind our project. And without the experience and drive of Isabel Richardson, the significance of those early findings might never have been recognised and its potential ignored. Sadly, Isabel died a few weeks ago, quite unexpectedly to all who knew of her vitality, energy, and active participation in both family life and her ongoing archaeological projects. We've lost a good friend, a staunch supporter of our local teams of enthusiasts, so this film is dedicated to her memory. It seems impossible to imagine her absence from future digs, and we have so much to thank her for. Alongside her career as a building specialist for the National Trust at Killerton, Isabel was a founding member of the Tiverton Archaeology Group. Some 40 years ago, and had been its chair for long periods as the group researched many subjects in Devon and Somerset. Recently, her knowledge and vision, professional experience, and ability to draw support from other professionals in the field helped steer our project through its earliest stages. She helped coordinate volunteer and academic resources before funding became available, drew up detailed plans to progress these, and devoted huge amounts of her time organising the cleaning, assessing, documenting and evaluating of finds.
Put your finds into the water. I mean, this ought to be Barbara actually, she's done far more of this than me. There we go. So, wait a minute, be very careful, look what I've done, you see, look. So you have to be really, really careful one doesn't remain there.
She helped lead us through 15 years of staged work. She saw the initial exciting exploration of the surveyor's sketchy indications and shared the discovery of the first building remains, the wholly unexpected revelation of mosaic floor fragments, and was able to realise the scope and significance of this site we now anticipate. To briefly recap, in the early 2000s, two series of events took place without which we might still be ignorant of the site's significance. Our society, under its archaeology heading, had tried rudimentary field walking in any nearby access areas. Battens Farm was kindly offered by Mr. Ron Venner, and we had great fun trying out this technique. Yet finds were made of slate, potsherds, iron and flint. These were duly sent for identification, but no flags raised. A while later, and critically important, local metal detectorist John Hill searched this and many other local fields. His detection of many rare Roman-era coins in a concentrated area strongly indicated that Battens Field had known significant Romano-British connection for around 2 centuries. With the COVID pandemic in full effect during 2020, no further community-based work was possible. Also, finding funding for professional archaeological work on a large scale was unlikely. But in early 2021, a government policy to support cultural organisations affected by COVID restrictions made funds available. These allowed for an application to be made for professionally based services, and a local branch of AC Archaeology was commissioned. Substrata was again called to do further detailed geophysical work during the spring, and in May 2021 a team from AC started excavations. As COVID restrictions had not been fully released, community involvement wasn't yet feasible. During the first 2 weeks of the dig, the AC team under Stuart Randall, ably supported by Libby, AJ and Daniel worked on a plan to excavate an initial 10 trenches. A primary objective of the plan was to explore those areas the geophysics had shown to be of the greatest significance, and attempt to confirm the extent of the building, defining room plans from wall remains, and investigating anomalies. Most trenches were in the upper field, the gate area, but a secondary cluster investigated features on the west side of the field near Ivy House Farm, where further geophysical readings suggested wall foundations, demolition debris, and a possible boundary ditch. Trenches were initially mechanically opened up with the aid of a highly experienced digger operator, supervised closely by the archaeologists. The tilled layer, down to around 20 to 25 centimetres, was carefully scraped off a few centimetres at a time and set aside. At the first sign of anything other than natural for the site, mechanical scraping paused in that portion, and all further work would follow traditional digging methods, mattock and trowel. Comprehensive tilled soil heap sieving wasn't feasible at the time, with the community involvement not being permitted. However, detectorist John Hill used his skills and equipment to great effect to locate a few more coins and a great many iron nails. As excavation progressed, certain alignments of foundation walls, made of rounded cobble, began to convey more of the villa's overall floor pattern and increase the possible size and significance of the site. Later, 3 more exploratory trenches would be cut to help confirm building outlines, though this dig will by no means provide all the answers. On an unusually fine day, about 2 weeks into the dig, an open day event was set up for invited members of the SPSOC, TAG, the Halberton Historical Group, Exeter University, and some of the 2019 dig volunteers. Again, due to COVID, this was limited to around 50 people in 4 timed groups. John Hill displayed his collection of metallic objects and coins found on the site, and groups could see the geophysical survey maps that guided the archaeologist's work. Isabel Richardson was there to coordinate the hourly groups and briefly set out the scene before handing over to lead archaeologist Stuart Randall, who did an excellent job explaining their findings and fielding questions.
Together for a change, and to introduce Stuart Randall, who is working for AC Archaeology, and Stuart's going to be your guide this morning round the site and explain what we're trying to do and what's going on.
Thank you everyone, and thank you for coming. So yeah, like Isabel said, I'm from AC Archaeology. We're based in Bradlinch, and we're asked to come here and do what we call archaeological evaluation. We've put in our evaluation trenches. The main purpose is to look at the preservation of the archaeology, primarily the villa, but also to look at some of the other features that we've found, because they've done field walking, but we've done geophysics in this area as well. So we've got some of the results here, and we've targeted some of the what we call the anomalies, the features that we can see on the geophysics, to sort of inform what we hope to be a wider sort of open area excavation. We'll be looking at trying to get heritage glossary funding to really sort of look at the villa. And so that was one of our objectives, and one of the others was to get a layout really of the building, to see the size, the shape of it really. So as we look at the trenches, I think we've done quite well in the short time that we've had. So we're going to have a look at the trenches and I'll show you what we found. Okay. So we'll start off with trench 6, just here.
While 10 trenches had been opened up, 4 had been left at the stage of tilled soil removal when nothing significant was revealed at that depth. 3 of the 6 remaining are in the upper field, where the tour began. As Stuart escorted groups round the site, he explained his findings. The first trench 6 was cut in an L shape. It intersected 2 foundation stone strips, about 60 centimetres wide, constructed from a probable river-washed, rounded cobble. These strips are located at each of the west and north ends of the L shape, and could well be linked by a corner. The next trench in the upper field, Trench 5, was dug quite close to the 2019 Mosaic Trench. And more than fulfilled our hopes by revealing another mosaic patch, almost certainly contiguous with the first. A wall foundation at the northern end aligned well with the strip in Trench 6 and may define a rear wall. In the third of the trenches in the upper field, Trench 3 had small amounts of local breccia walling remaining on the cobble foundations, and a gapped double wall which led to a charcoal blackened earth and clay feature, which perhaps suggests a flue of a heating system.
Trying to decide where the floor levels were at this time, so the footings were probably below floor level, weren't they? You'd dig a trench down and put the footings in, and then so probably the breccia is a bit that would be above floor level.
Yeah.
But for some reason, either they robbed them out. They don't survive though, do they?
The floors. No.
And we had the same.
In the week following the open day, 2 more trenches were opened. His report later explained, Trench 14 was excavated to try to understand the flue features in the southeast corner of Trench 3 and to locate any further walls of the villa. It wasn't possible to fully excavate any features due to time restrictions, but a possible slate floor was found in the northwest half of the trench. Trench 13 was placed to try to locate the northern extent of the building. This revealed a wall footing aligned with the footing found in Trench 3 and shows that the width of the villa could be much wider than previously thought, or even could mean a wing on the north side of the villa building. Walking down the field towards Ivy House Farm, there are 3 more trenches. 10 and 11 were excavated to investigate large anomalies on the geophysical survey, and to test the theory that there was activity in this area consistent with the field walking results. They initially encountered a large spread of debris, including a stone, slate and different forms of mortar and plaster, that was highly suggestive of a collapsed or demolished building. Underneath this material they found walls.
Had these large anomalies which are probably...
As walls were found in both trenches, this does confirm in some regard that buildings did exist. As to what these buildings were can only be speculated at present, but it's now known to be an area of interest, probably contemporary with or closely related to the villa in the upper field. The final trench near Ivy House Farm, Trench 12, had 2 apparent linear geophysical anomalies, but only one was located, a large northeast-southwest aligned ditch. It had a uniform profile and produced finds of animal bone, slag and Roman pottery. This could be a boundary ditch of some form. It is very straight on the geophysical survey interpretation. So, Stuart's initial conclusions indicate that the evaluation trenches have shown the potential to find out the layout of the building, to date the villa, and to investigate any associated buildings. The layout of this building has become a bit clearer, and it seems bigger than previously thought, but its layout is still not 100% clear and will need further clarification. Further work is needed to find the true layout of the building, whether that be an open area excavation as preferred, or further trenching, and that potential dating of the site should be possible from the ceramics found. Not many in situ deposits were excavated during the evaluation, as only plough soil and demolition and collapse deposits were removed. But the finds from these show potentially there could be many more stratified finds to recover. Stewart's immediate conclusions from his on-site excavations, measurements and finds lent weight to the idea that indeed these foundations did belong to a Romanised villa. After several months of expert analysis commissioned by AC Archaeology, a draft report was produced. Though still generally embargoed, the report confirms Stewart's view that this was a high-status, if modest size, Romano-British farmstead-style villa, typical of rural areas. Other sites excavated in the lower field would have all been part of this complex. The main villa would have been generally rectangular, about 35 metres long by 10 metres wide, and have had two projecting wings. The mosaic flooring in the southern wing is consistent with the structure and patterns of mosaics carried out by skilled teams in Somerset. The report ventures that there could well be a further mosaic in the highest status public room, centrally located, but none of the trenches happen to be in that area. Though some clay tile pieces were found, many more lozenge-shaped slate roofing tiles were also recovered, giving the possibility of one or other or both types of roof tile types in different phases of the 200 years or more of occupation. My not very artistic impression is a fanciful amalgam of found images on the internet, and has no official value whatsoever, but it could give an idea of its scale in the landscape. The report emphasises how rare the finding of such a dwelling is. Only 3 in the whole of Devon, and this is the most remote from the south coast. Also how fragile the site is, and that any further standard ploughing would inevitably destroy as yet undocumented features. It strongly encourages community-based participation to be a major part of the project, as and when funds and the societal conditions permit further investigations to go ahead. I'm sure we all look forward to that.